Hey everyone! Today I want to talk to you about a very new and very exciting upcoming project that's in the works and due to make an appearance in the next couple of weeks, and that's our Masters of Product Marketing live broadcast series. We don't have a confirmed go live date just yet, but we're expecting to kick things off by the end of July, and when we do, it will be a 10-week product marketing extravaganza dedicated to shining the light on knowledge sharing between VP and director level PMMs. Every week for 10 weeks straight, we'll be airing live broadcasts, which will be brought to you by product marketing masters from organisations like Adroll, Uber, Oracle, UiPath and Typeform, on topics like the power of product marketing to drive transformational change, building a world-class sales enablement program, launching and scaling product marketing during hypergrowth, and product marketing's lead in brand transformation. The entire series will be completely free to attend, and although it's dedicated primarily to those masters of the industry, it's largely open to all. Regardless of what stage of your career you're at, everybody will be able to tune in to the live sessions and listen to and learn from each speaker's expertise. However, the post-networking phase of the event will be invitation only, exclusive to product marketers at the peak of their career. And I'll explain why now. Since PMA's inception, we've been gathering and listening to feedback from everyone within the community. You asked for podcasts, we added podcasts. You asked for courses, we created courses. Aspiring product marketers asked for a way to get their foot in the door, so we created our Scholar program. And VPs and directors of product marketing have been asking for an exclusive hub to have high-level conversations with peers who are in the same position, so we introduced our Masters of Product Marketing series. Before, during, after, and forevermore, our Masters of Product Marketing will have free lifetime access to a closed, confidential community where they can talk openly and unreservedly about the problems they face, challenges they've overcome, tactics that have worked, areas they need support, and just about anything else they want. You've asked, we've delivered. We'll be revealing more speakers in the coming weeks, along with details on where and how to sign up to the weekly keynote talks, AMAs, fireside chats, and panel discussions. But for now, I hope I've done enough to pique your interest. If you have any questions, feel free to drop me a message, either under this video, in a DM, or on Slack, and I'd be happy to talk to you about this program in more detail. Once again, thanks for tuning in.
Hi, everyone. Hi, Glenn. Hi, MC. Hi, Richard. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining from 0 to 1, how to build a mission-critical product marketing function from the ground up. I'm really excited to have the opportunity to share with you guys today. I wish we could be together in person for this, but I do hope you are all staying safe, and I will do my best to make this virtual talk entertaining. If you have questions throughout the talk, feel free to put them in the chat and we'll try to get to them at the end of the presentation. My name is Stacy Wong. I lead the product marketing team at Ironclad. A little bit about myself and Ironclad before we dive in. As you can see from my background, I'm actually a lawyer, not a product marketer by training. And if I'm honest, I didn't even know product marketing was a job until about 5 years ago when I transitioned from law into tech. So if I can build an amazing product marketing team, all of you guys who are career product marketers, or even those who aren't, you can definitely do it. I joined Ironclad at the seed stage, product marketer number 1, employee number 10. This is my first day on the job, and this is literally half the company at that time. It's been 3 years since, and in that time we have 10x'd. We have raised $84 million from some of the world's best investors, and we're recognized by the likes of Fortune as a great place to work, Forbes as the next billion-dollar startup. And along the way, I've had the immense privilege of building this product marketing function, and it has been the most rewarding thing I've ever done in my career, and it has also been the hardest. The exciting thing about building the product marketing team is that it really is a journey, and unlike with a lot of other functions that are more traditionally well-defined and understood. The exciting thing about product marketing is that you can truly go anywhere you want with this function. Product marketing can be as big or as narrow as you want it to be. It's totally up to you. But there's no map, precisely because the map depends on where you're going, right? And that is, as I said, entirely up to you. There's no one playbook. And so that's not what I'm going to be giving you today. Instead, I'm going to share with you some of the lessons that have stuck out to me the most, the lessons that I have learned the hard way, and hopefully they will serve as some helpful directions to you as you go on your journey. Okay, so first, it's up to you to set the right destination. And you have got to set a vision for your team. This is hands down the number one most important thing you need to invest cycles into figuring out, almost at a philosophical level up front. Otherwise, it will be set for you. The thing is that you'll hear repeatedly from other product marketers. You'll probably hear repeatedly at this festival. The thing is that product marketing means something different at every company. So it really is imperative that you figure out what product marketing means at yours. When I first started thinking about this, when I first started thinking about building the team, I asked a lot of folks in this community, outside of this community, what does product marketing mean to you? How do you define product marketing? And I noticed that the definitions basically fell into one of three broad categories. Category one, flavor one, this is a definition that describes what PMM does, all of the various jobs to be done. And as you can see, PMM does a lot of stuff. Category two is a flavor of definition that basically revolves around who at the company product marketing works with. And another way of thinking about this is how product marketing gets stuff done. So you often will hear things like product marketing is the go-to-market quarterback, or product marketing is, the strategic function of marketing. And then the final flavor that I noticed was by maturity, or how we scale. I think this one is especially common in the Bay Area, where companies are growing very quickly. So it's important to understand how product marketing also evolves with the company. So I talked to all these people, got all these flavors of what does product marketing mean to you, and they're all useful in helping understand different aspects of product marketing. But ultimately, to me, they highlighted only two important and unique characteristics about product marketing. Number one, product marketing is extremely versatile, like a Swiss Army knife. And number two, product marketing is extremely cross-functional in that we work with a lot of different folks across the company. Put these two together, versatility, cross-functionality, amazing, right? And these are, when you first look at it, these are really awesome features about product marketing, and they seem like they could be really powerful building blocks of the PMM dream team. But in our greatest strength, therein also lies our Achilles heel. The risk is that when you have range and you work with everybody, you cannot focus and you cannot prioritize. We've all been there. The risk is we are so squishy that we get squished, or that you juggle all the flamethrowers and you burn yourself out, or you burn your team out. And what's worse, you can do all of this juggling, but the fact is, when you are all things to all people, you are nothing to know anybody. And that is a non-starter. So when you are thinking about building the product marketing dream team and setting a destination for it, this to me is the key challenge. How do you go from squishy to product marketing dream team? How do you leverage what makes product marketing so strong without getting sunk by it? The key is to start at the highest possible altitude your company needs. To build the PMM Dream Team, you've got to start by conceptualizing your work at not with your priorities or even with your team's priorities, but with your company's. Now, this is from personal experience. I think this is really hard to do because if you've got the mandate and you've got the budget to build a team, it's probably because there is a lot of stuff you need to do right now. There's a lot of stuff that feels urgent, but I'm telling you, if you do not change your altitude, you will miss out on an opportunity to set a different destination than you even thought possible. Because we're so versatile in terms of our skill set and we're so inherently cross-functional, we have this amazing luxury of being able to view problems from a different vantage point, that higher altitude, than pretty much any other function at the company other than obviously the executive team. But what this means is that we can see the forest for the trees. When we can see the forest for the trees, we should do exactly that. Because when you're looking at the forest from the sky, you can identify these high impact opportunities and build it into your core work portfolio. You can point to the part of the forest that's on fire and say, I've got to put that fire out for the company because no one else can do it or no one else is focused on doing that right now. And when you start from this altitude, you will see that there is really an exceptional use case for product marketing cross-functionality. And that is strategic cross-functional initiatives that do not have a clear driver. I just provide a couple examples here: pricing and packaging and segmentation. They're both examples of high impact initiatives at the company-wide level. And by working on such initiatives, you establish your bona fides to work at the strategic level rather than the tactical. You can only identify those, though, if you move up in terms of your altitude. All right, another benefit of aiming high is that you can take your team out of the crosshairs of competing priorities. So say you're having trouble understanding if you should prioritize marketing's pipeline or products activation goals. Consider if there is a priority that rules them both. And I would argue at some level there must be, otherwise your company has bigger issues. But consider if there's a priority that rules them both and then have the conversation at that level. A cautionary word on problem spotting. In my experience, the hardest thing about identifying problems is diagnosing and defining them, hands down. You know, you may see that there's a fire. What kind of fire is it? Why is it burning? How big is the surface area of the fire? Finding repeatability in a new segment. Is this the right problem? Or is the problem actually prospecting into that segment? The difference makes a difference. A failure mode, as our friend Einstein points out, right? A failure mode is to rush into problem solving before you've done the deep work of understanding what the problem is in the first place. If you rush into problem solving, as is common, you'll always be reacting to something you can't fully understand, and you'll never catch up to where the work really needs to be. So you won't be able to make the most impact that you can. Now, if you ask your cross-functional stakeholders to get in a room and help you identify the problem, you're probably going to get a lot of blank stares. And frankly, practically speaking, you're going to need to sharpen the conversation in order for any problem or priority to become workable. So I want to share with you one technique I like to use, and that is using a strawman that consists of a 3-year strategy for solving the problem at a high level. And I've provided this really kind of silly example here, but the point is to say, this is a 3-year journey. If we agree that in 3 years, we want to open a fish factory, then this year, what we've got to figure out is where to catch the fish, right? So that next year we can figure out how to catch fish at scale. Why does this technique of presenting a straw man work. Number one, it contextualizes the problem in terms of how we might solve for it, making it very real to your cross-functional stakeholders and also very digestible. It shows everyone who cares about the problem. This is a big enough problem that it's going to require a longer-term, stabler solution. But also, it's something we really can solve if we get started right away. Number two, speaking of right away, it creates real urgency around the problem. If we agree that this is a big deal, well, this is what we must get done this year in order for us to meet our goals next year. This has real implications. Number three, by creating urgency, it helps me prioritize the team's bandwidth very strategically. It gives me a framework I can use to say, if we already agreed that X was a problem, then we have to focus on solving X and not doing this other bucket of reactionary work over here. So it helps me and the team focus. And because of that focus, we've got number four, which is the team has direction and clarity, which is critical for making them happy, making them productive and proactive and strategic rather than tactical. Okay, so far we have been thinking through how you can set a destination for your team that leverages product marketing's versatility without getting hamstrung by it. This part is, as I said, essential groundwork that needs to be done in order for you to move on to the next hardest part of the journey, which is bamboozling amazing people into joining your team. But before we talk about that, I want to share with you our take of what product marketing means at Ironclad. Again, every company is different, but the way we think about how we think about product marketing might be helpful to you. So I'll share that at Ironclad, product marketing comprises three critical pillars: story, strategy, and what we call core. Story represents the highest altitude work that we do. We work with our executive team on this to define and evangelize the story of why we exist as a company, as well as why our product, the digital contracting platform, is so critical to modern companies being able to manage their contracts effectively. The story sets the vision for our team and pulls and provides direction for our strategy. So the strategy pod of our team, their job is to develop new markets for our story and devise strategies for winning those markets in close collaboration with sales, with customer success, with product. And then finally, product marketing core lays the foundation for us being able to do any of this higher altitude work in the first place, because this is the work that tends to be more urgent and has quicker results. So this is where we prove out the value of the digital contracting platform story through launches. This is where we influence the product roadmap, and this is where we enable sales. That's really, I understand, kind of a mouthful, but the important thing to know about this pyramid is that as a whole, it contemplates a higher order defined by the company needs rather than our teams. And it is exactly by serving those higher order needs that we are able to increase our impact, increase our surface area, and gain access to mission critical problems and opportunities across the company. Okay, let's talk about team building. Team building is everything, because at the end of the day, teams aren't magic. Teams are people all the way down. And so no amount of planning or vision setting or anything really will work without amazing people. And one of the things you'll have to consider carefully is that building a team is not the same as hiring individuals. Because building a team is about looking for people who work well together, whose sum, their combined chemistry is greater than their parts. But let's actually start with the individuals. Oh man, well, unfortunately this animation didn't work, so you can't really see my team, but here they are hidden behind this egg. I put this egg in here because every person on this team is like an egg, and it's just a nice shorthand way to communicate that they're all very well-rounded and they have tremendous range, which is like that nice round middle, but they also, every single one of them has one or two peak points that kind of define their work. Every single one of these folks that you unfortunately can't see here, they're the best of the best in their particular game. And I think that is one of the most important things I've learned about creating synergy, because you want to give your teammates space to carve out expertise and inspire and improve each other. And they're more likely to have that chemistry, that synergy, if they're focused on growing their spiky strengths versus competing with each other. So look for eggs, think about the chemistry of the folks on the team. It is also very important to look at the team holistically and think about the capabilities on that team. Do you have enough coverage for all of the mission critical work at the company? Because you're going to need that coverage to gain access to the mission critical problem set, right? So do you as a team have range? This is a very basic rubric that I used the first time I did recruiting, but it's just one way you can think about it. I call it like T-shaped requirements, meaning all of the product marketers on the team have certain core competencies, but then we're also looking to build out certain specializations underneath that, so like a T. So in summary, look for eggs who complement each other and who together provide nice coverage across a wide range of problems. I'm not going to provide any cultural guidance because every company is different, though I think culture is the number one most important thing every hiring manager should interview for. But I will say this, one, cultural non-negotiable. I think this combination of low ego, high self-esteem is basically a non-negotiable if you're at a high growth company. And the reason for it has to do with how much high growth employees have to learn and grow. And it is very hard for folks who are not in this perfect human part of the diagram here to accept feedback openly. So look for folks who are, low ego, but also pretty comfortable with their self-esteem. Don't just prove value, earn trust. When people talk about proving value, they're often talking about numbers. And I'm not going to talk about metrics today, though certainly numbers are important. If you choose the right metric, you can neatly sum up how you're doing against that metric. And metrics are a very powerful tool for keeping everyone on your team marching in lockstep and towards a goal. But I think where product marketing is concerned, earning trust is as, if not more important than proving value, especially in the early days of team development when your relationships are extremely pivotal. And I believe it is the job of the team leader to get this right, because if you don't, you cannot pave the way to give your team access to mission critical problems. So extremely important to earn that trust with your cross-functional partners. And I'm going to share 3 kind of tactical things I think are important for building that trust. There are certainly more than these 3, but I think of these as really kind of foundational. So this first one, do what you say, it's maybe bordering on life principles, but I do think it is incredibly important and something I will always give feedback on if someone on my team fails to deliver something on time or in the way promised. At Ironclad, we like to say, do the little things and the big things will kind of take care of themselves. And I think this is very true when it comes to promises you make at the company. No matter how small, deliver on those promises, because if you don't, that's a really fast way to lose trust with your counterparties. The corollary to this is do not promise what you cannot deliver. Scope your projects and your team's projects very carefully. Otherwise, you run the risk of overextending your team, which loses trust with your team. Or you also run the risk of failing to deliver, which loses trust with your cross-functional partners. So as somebody building a team, as a team manager, it's your responsibility to really scope the projects and priorities carefully. Say what you do. This one I think is absolutely critical. You have got to tell people what you are working on, because a huge part of the value of being product marketing, of being cross-functional, is that you have special insight into what's going on across the company. And who's interested in that insight? The company is interested in that insight. So, we've put a lot of thought as a team into information dissemination, because we believe that product marketing, that's actually one of product marketing's core duties, is disseminating information across the company. So as just a couple examples, we've got an internal doc that organizes and lists all our work. We've got a bunch of Airtables. But one of the most, I would say, effective things we have done is a monthly email to the entire company. And we call it the PMM monthly memo. It is one of the lowest lift, highest leverage things you can start to do today to establish credibility at your company. And I will tell you, every single time we send out one of these memos, I get feedback from people all over the company saying, thank you for sharing this launch strategy, or thank you for sharing this research here. It's really powerful, and it's really not that hard. Finally, empathize with your partners. Empathy is really important at Ironclad. It's one of our cultural pillars, and I'm so glad it is, because nothing works without it. When you are a cross-functional leader and teammate, you have got to remember that everyone's job is hard, but we are all in the same boat. So offer empathy, be the first person to trust, because if you do, you're likely to get that back. Embrace the ups and downs. All right, so team building is inherently a roller coaster. What you're seeing here on the screen, this is a diagram of Bruce Tuckman's famous stages of team development, where you've got the forming stage, the storming stage, norming, performing, adjourning. Literally looks like a roller coaster. And I'm so proud to say that today we have a very high performing team, but you do not get a high performing team overnight, no matter how skilled you are. There are just some stages, like the storming stage, that actually just kind of suck. In that stage, you've got a lot of resistance, you've got lack of participation, high emotions. And just know that is totally okay. Some stages are supposed to suck. And so I share this to say, keep perspective and just keep swimming and trust that things will get better. But team development really is a process. If you feel like an imposter, you're doing something right. So as I told you in the beginning, I'm a lawyer. I'm not a product marketer by training. And I always felt like I was going to be found out day 5. They suspect nothing. day 33, they still suspect nothing. What gave me great comfort was learning from leaders that I admire that they all feel it, not because they couldn't do the job, but because if you truly understand and internalize the incredible responsibility that is team building, it's very natural to wonder if you're the right person for the job. Just know confidence and competence are not at all the same thing. And I'm sure nobody in this audience needs me to tell you that. But I personally think that imposter syndrome is a sign of greatness, actually, because it forces you to grow in ways that do not even occur to people who don't have to deal with it. And the number one thing you need to do to take your team from forming to performing is just to grow and learn quickly. The most important thing you can do for yourself, for your team, for your company is just to be open to that growth and to continue to try. And don't worry about feeling like an imposter. It's totally normal. And in fact, it's probably a sign that you're doing something right. All right, we're in the home stretch of my presentation. I just want to conclude by saying again that building product marketing is really a special journey. It's a tremendous opportunity because if you set your sights high, product marketing can really be as big as you want it to be. If you take a step back, the world and companies within our world, everything is becoming increasingly specialized. People are becoming cogs, not creators. And product marketers, what makes us special is that we have range, we have versatility, meaning we can escape the cog, the trap of being a cog with our breadth of knowledge and also our expertise in certain areas. We have range and versatility, which makes us better at solving complex, higher altitude problems. We're not cogs, we're linchpins. We're the thing that makes the company go round. And we do that by creating an interface that enables our company to talk to itself and the outside world. And so as linchpins, we have a very privileged position where we can, toggle between altitudes across the company. We can zoom in and out, and we can do this very critical job of disseminating information across teams. So for all you first-time team builders, get excited. You can absolutely build the product marketing team of your dreams, and I hope that you do. And I hope that this presentation helps you along on your journey. My name is Stacy. I would love to connect with you. I am hiring on my team, so please check out ironcladapp.com/careers if you're interested. Thank you so much for taking the time to be with me today, and I will now check the chat for some questions. Oh, I guess there's only one question. What do you do if you just can't get past the storming stage? What a great, let's go back to that slide. So MC from, let's see. Well, MC, I don't know where you're from, but let's see. Asks, what are some of the things, what do you do if you just can't get past the storming stage? Man, that is a tough stage. I would love to actually have a more one-on-one conversation with you, MC, MC from London, great. I'd be happy to talk more one-on-one because I feel like there's a lot of ways that I could answer this. But for a broad audience, I would say there's this thing I used to think a lot is like, keep calm and carry on. That's like number one thing is in your head, you have got to know that this is a stage and there are and that you have to stay positive and focused on getting out of that stage. But there are some techniques that you can definitely use. I use a combination of process and also one-on-ones, like process for the team level, things like defining certain norms, documenting things. I know it seems really simple, but for example, one of the tools that I used is basically I constantly was refactoring our team sync at the beginning to make it more productive, more effective, but then also just noticing in that team sync where people were not getting value so that I could follow up with them one-on-one, get feedback, and refactor that sync. But I think I would say operationalizing the team syncs, anything you have to do as a team, and then one-on-one, you have to work one-on-one with your teammates to really address their unique resistance in that stage, because people have different resistance based on totally different things. So those are kind of like two things I would say very high level, but I'm very happy to go in depth and hear about your experience, because there's like tons of things you can do here. Carrie asks, what are some questions you ask or red flags you look for to identify ego in a candidate? Ooh, that's a great question. Where's this one? Okay, so there are a few questions I ask, but I really like asking candidates to describe for me learnings. So tell me about something that you consider a failure, or like something that could have gone better. Tell me what you learned from that. I also like asking for, I mean, these are like pretty broad questions, but things that tease out what are your greatest weaknesses? What are your greatest strengths? I don't particularly care what they say in those things, but I really do look for how they say it. I look for people who are vulnerable enough to identify a real weakness versus something that you've always, everybody's heard those answers that are like, basically, I'm just too much of a perfectionist. I like can't put things down, and like you can identify whether or not somebody's being vulnerable about a real weakness. And then the last thing I do that I recommend everyone does, I think it's really effective, is I put everyone through an exercise. So everybody on the product marketing team has to do, for example, a presentation. And after they do the presentation, I will actually give them feedback on the presentation and see how they respond to that feedback. And if you don't have a test or something in your process, it's probably a great idea to include one anyway. But basically, whatever it is you include as part of the test, give them feedback on it and see how they react to it. I think that's like a very effective way to identify ego in a candidate. All right. Well, I don't
I have
see
a
any other
question for you,
questions.
Stacey.
So,
Hello.
oh, hi,
Thank you
Max.
for such great presentation. Firstly, really, really good content. Obviously, we find ourselves in really strange times at the minute. A lot of people working from home, and when you're trying to maintain a team and mature a team, how have you found communicating? Obviously, in an office, it's a bit easier. You can tap someone on the shoulder and say, "Hey, how's it going? How's this going?" Here, you might feel like you're bugging someone, messaging them. How have you found keeping sort of those lines of communications open and sort of good-natured and spirited?
That's a great question. I would love to hear. I wish this was in person so people could actually, share too. But I'll tell you what we've done. Like I actually find that, so we went remote in March, I think. Yes, that's right. So we've been remote now for, 3 months. We're going to be remote until the end of the year. And it was a hard transition at first because our culture was entirely in office. Like we have a very strong in office culture. And so it was a hard transition to go from that to overnight, everything's on Zoom. But we've done some things very intentionally to make our connection to each other still very strong. And if anything, I would say that this period apart has grown us even closer together. But some of the things are initially we would have daily stand-ups. Now it's like, it's been 3 months. Daily stand-ups are a little too much of a burden for everybody, but we would have these daily stand-ups where we would just like talk about what's going on. I usually run a very operational, very tight team sync, but in the beginning, I would use that time instead just to basically process emotions, because everybody was just going through, and we're still going through so much. So I think that is very important, is however you do it, like creating a safe space, psychological safety in the team, so that they can feel comfortable like bringing their lives into work versus having to kind of put on a work face. So number one, the daily stand-ups, creating safe space in those daily stand-ups. The other thing we've done to mimic the organic feel of being in an office, like where, you know, before you could just like pop by, is so we have you know, a bunch of different team comms. So we have like a private team channel that we use to talk about everything from work to anything else that, you know, the team wants to talk about. But in that private channel, any one of us will just throw on a Zoom link and just almost like hold informal catch up, and anybody can join the Zoom link. We have like a Zoom group for the PMM team where we can just like call each other at any time, and there's no obligation to be on the call, but it's just like a nice way to mimic that organic feel that offices have. But yeah, does that answer your question?
It's a tough time. People working from home, is harder to separate work and the rest of life at the minute. So I think, yeah, being able to chat both sort of professionally and personally is a really important tactic.
Yeah. But yeah, psychological safety, I think, is the job of the team manager to really think about that problem and figure out a way to deliver that for the team, whether it's through like syncs, calls, whatever. Okay. Sean. Hi, Sean. So Sean asks, do you have a go-to tactic to overcome communication barriers when you're finding it hard to get buy-in from other functions? Yes, but I'm trying to, man, I like with all of these questions, I wish I could ask questions back, but yes. The question I would love to ask back is like, do you have an example of the type of problem you're dealing with? But in general, my tactic for overcoming communication barriers is something along these lines, something along what you're seeing on the screen is, you know, I always basically will present some kind of straw man to my counterparty. And the 3-year strategy is one type of straw man. I find this very effective when communicating with executives, but to other parts of the company who are, you know, I kind of like think about the POC and what they're trying to accomplish, and then present almost like a straw man proposal in terms that they would understand. And straw mans can range from a number of things. Like, it doesn't have to be this 3-year strategy. It could be like a deck that lays out how you, I'll give you an example. Maybe this is something you're curious about, maybe it's not, but like influencing the product roadmap. I know this is something that comes up a lot, even at this festival. People are always like, how do product marketers influence the product roadmap? How do we get buy-in into that problem? And the way I will approach that is I will say, let's see, where's that pyramid? Okay, so I'll go to my VP of product, and let's say, you know, all of the, and this is not a true example, but all of the features on the roadmap, there aren't any pipeline generating features, or there aren't any features that tell the story that I know we need to tell this year in order for us to, you know, really sell the product. I'll basically anchor the conversation at a level, at the story level, but I will frame it as related to the product vision versus just related to, you know, the story I want to tell. Say like, this is a pillar of the product vision. This is what we're trying to achieve together. And maybe I'll even like present a mock launch or a mock, you know, messaging framework to discuss and say, these things need to get in here in order for me to actually pitch this story in the fall. So it's always some combination of like presenting a straw man that will make it easier for them to understand what we can achieve together. So happy to have follow-up conversations on that, but that's basically what it is.
Stacey, I definitely look forward to being able to have more of a back and forth conversation around these topics. But honestly, great job with the presentation, really informative. Thank you for everyone who tuned in and everyone who asked a question. Stacey, do you have any concluding remarks?
No, just my email is, my contact information is here. Wait, oh my gosh, get through the entire presentation. My contact information is here. Please connect with me. And thank you all so much for taking the time to, you know, learn with me today. So thanks everyone. Hope to meet you all at some point in real life.
Thank you everyone for tuning in.
Thank you. Bye.